Cabal II shows off its new class and combat trailer, Nosgoth gets a new vampire class, Sony Online Entertainment gets a new name and owner, and after 14 years of development, 8BitMMO comes out of early access. What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com with a quick weekly recap for MMO news and announcements for the week ending February 2nd, 2015. And our first bit of news for this week is that KOG Games is launching a new path with 2 new job upgrades for Elesis and Elsword. As part of the Masters of Darkness campaign, her first new job path available now is the Dark Knight Elesis, who boasts a unique system that allows her to use her own blood to strengthen her attacks, dealing additional damage and more. The new trailer that you see playing here also shows off the Crimson Avenger, which is the second job on this new path that isn't quite available as of yet, with not a whole lot of details, but the huge sword that she can manifest is actually pretty epic, and she seems to be able to push the blood sacrifice system even further at that point. Next up, a new Aeon update showed up recently that specifically addressed some of the game's mechanics based on player feedback, that also adds incentives for players who have been absent to try to get them to return to the game. There is now exclusive content for returning players. New areas called Abbeys have been added to each of the faction's main city, which can be used exclusively by players who have not logged in for 30 days in order to help them catch up with gear upgrades, daily and one-shot quests, and an Energy of Repose recharge pad. It's a very unusual concept they're doing here, but it actually seems like a cool way to get players back in. It definitely makes sense that players ask for this. But this update didn't just focus on returning players. The Mana Stone system has also received an overhaul, along with other changes made to enchanting. Check out the MMOHuts news post, which includes the original patch notes for all the details. Also last week, a new combat trailer was released for Cabal II, showing off the classes and the combat to go along with them. When talking to the developers at PAX South, they mentioned the very essence of Cabal's gameplay was reborn in Cabal II, rather than completely replaced or redesigned. Therefore, we already see 5 of the classes return: the Warrior, the Wizard, the Force Archer, the Force Blader, and the Force Shielder. The Blader actually has been replaced by the new Priest class. But likewise, with the combat, comboing and battle modes also remain a big part of Cabal's 2 gameplay. Skill combos are a crucial element in combat and may be activated either through special conditions, like as a knockdown, or as part of an attack's natural chain, and this results in more powerful attacks, healings, and skills, and are limited only by players' ability and attentiveness to the battle. There's honestly plenty to know about the combat system and Cabal 2 in general, so if you haven't already, check out my PAX South interview with the devs or our detailed write-up at MMOHuts.com. Next up, it looks like we can expect to see even more new content from Tera this month. Following the recently released Fate of Arun expansion, Inmas has a February update in store that will heighten players' experiences by focusing on guild rewards and group content, including a new 5-on-5 PvP battleground, Champions Skyring Mark V, and a new airship dungeon, Sky Cruiser Endeavor. The biggest part to this update, however, are the Skycastles, which are the ultimate symbol of prestige and accomplishment for the most dedicated guilds in the game. Now, these floating castles are available to the top-ranking guilds on each server via 2 new ongoing 4-week guild competitions that track guild points earned from dungeons, battlegrounds, and guild versus guild battles. Each Sky Castle can be customized to offer worthy guilds of the ability to personalize their stake in the skies. This new content will be available to players on the 24th of February. And speaking of new content, this past week we've seen an announcement for new raid content coming to Rift. As part of the new Storm at Sea update that is available now, players can log in and travel to the Storm Legion's island refuge off the coast of Goboro Reef and test their skills against the new Nightmare Raid Rift and Wren of Fate Chronicle. Quest across the island, discover new capes and minions, master Dusk, Dust, and Steam Planner attunements, and prepare to take on Crucia herself in the heart of Tyrant's Forge, a new 20-player raid that is available this week. Interesting enough, after 14 years of development, a little MMO called 8BitMMO has finally launched. Talk about forever beta. After 14 years, the game just came out of early access. Development on the game started back in 2001 by a solo indie developer in his spare time, and a publicly playable version of the game wasn't made available until June of 2011. It made it to Steam Early Access in December of 2013 and has now made it to launch and became fairly popular along the way. So realistically, the game was in Early Access for just over a year, which is a bit more reasonable. The developer has actually added many new features in the past year based on player feedback, and one major feature is the new competitive PvP/PvE game mode called Transponders that allows players to build a base and then summon a raid consisting of both monsters and other players, and enemies spawn in increasingly difficult waves, and the winning side is awarded gold for their victory. The game has won several awards so far, and even though this is the official launch, the game will continue to develop with new content released on a regular basis. Just goes to show the climb that some of these indie developers have to go through to finally get out on top. Star Trek Online is also putting on the years. This past week was the 5th anniversary for the game, and just like in the past, they're bringing back the popular in-game anniversary event that will last for the entire month. The anniversary event brings in-game improvements, including a revamped Romulan story arc, new secondary deflector items, and updates for the Bridge Officer training system. What better way to celebrate your anniversary with improvements to the game itself? But besides the improvements, there is a new story episode available and bonuses to grab, of course. The event has already started and will end on February 26th. Next up, World of Warships put out this new trailer you see playing here, showcasing some epic fights and gameplay action from the most recent beta. Although there isn't a whole lot of information given, I'm actually hoping that this accurately depicts the pace of the game, honestly. Finally, we also get to see what the UI and some of the controlling is like in the game. And honestly, this new trailer makes me more excited to play the game even more than before. Besides recently going into open beta, Nosgoth is just about ready to release the Summoner as a new class for the vampires. Now, the Summoner is the first female vampire in Nosgoth whose abilities allow her to not only summon ghouls from the underworld, but also protect herself and her nearby allies from projectiles with her secondary abilities, and on top of that, help her allies with crowd control with explosive energy abilities and depth charges, basically. And last week I got a chance to hop into the private servers with Square Enix and Psyonix to check out the new class exclusively, so if you haven't seen that video, check it out right here. Otherwise, the Summoner will be available in-game for unlocking on February 3rd. Interesting news from Sony Online Entertainment this past week. First up, Dave Jordson presents a brand new video showcasing the first year of EverQuest Next Landmark and just how much the game has transitioned over from its early days. It's actually really impressive how far this game has come, the people who are playing it too. I definitely recommend checking out the video. In other SOE news though, Sony Online Entertainment is actually no more. Well, the name isn't anyway. Columbus Nova, an investment management firm based in New York, actually purchased SOE, and now the game company will operate independently and continue making games as it has, except the studio will now be called Daybreak Game Company. And it seems like President John Smedley is embracing the transition as he states, "We will continue to focus on delivering exceptional games to players around the world, as well as bringing our portfolio to new platforms, fully embracing the multi-platform world in which we all live." So it seems like nothing is going to change, and for now, we can only hope for the best overall outcome. Anyway guys, that's about all the major MMO news and announcements for this week. I'll leave you with a brand new boss fight trailer for Blade and Soul, just to tease you guys. But like always, if you're looking for more information about the news featured in the recap, check the links in the description below. Otherwise, head over to MMOHuts.com/news for even more MMO news. Feel free to discuss the news in the comments below, or head over to MMOHuts.com/forums. And until next time guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.